power is always within you to make that change. Or, yeah, my family just doesn't see me. They don't see me like this. Or you're waiting for
Yeah.
that validation, and there's information there for you too. Like, well,
Yeah.
why do you need your family to see you that way for you to
Yeah.
feel good about it, right? And there's always feedback happening, and if you start looking at your external world as a mirror and reflecting back, but also as feedback for you of what is going inside that you can't see.
Yeah.
You can't see where the stuck energy is, maybe,
Yeah.
but you'll see it reflected back and in someone else's behavior.
Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where we are focused on heart-centered entrepreneurship, and I call in the best of the best. And you're going to want to meet the woman of the hour today. And I just want to say welcome, Anniston, because you basically, I'm looking down at your name and it says Rudy, but I know that it's Anniston. So if anyone,
Sorry.
not Rudy, she's Anniston, and she is Anniston Blair Riekstins, and the last name is correct, but she is now the best-selling author of The Universe is Hiring, and you're going to want this book. So we're going to dive into this, and as you can see, I have questions there, but I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Dana. I feel like, our paths have crossed, and from the minute they have, and then now we've reconnected again, I've just feel like I resonate so much with you and your message and your community. And so I'm honored to be here and
Um,
be in this space.
I think the community is going to soak this up. They need it. It's, as I was saying, I just did a little mini video for my stories that said, if you don't have this book, you're going to need this book. Reading it, it just was full of not only accuracy, but wisdom that in validation, from imposter syndrome. And we'll dive into that. But, you know, your mission, and being married to someone who is an international speaker and the top of his game. I mean, let's face it, the last time I was in
Yep.
the room with him, I looked around, I opened my eyes because I had to follow him up on stage and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. He had the whole room crying, you know? And then you show up and you're equally, if not, I'm not going to say more, but you're a powerhouse.
I
And
appreciate that.
yeah, meeting you, I knew it immediately, and like I said, yes, I'm so glad that our paths came around again, because I wanna know what brought you to this place of writing the book, doing what you do. Was there a calling? Did you feel aligned? I know you've been in corporate. Let's talk about your path that got you here.
Sure. Well, it was winding and crazy, like most paths are. I have been I would call it a seeker, if you will, since my early 20s. And I think
Mm,
that, like a lot of people, I didn't know who I was. I had all these masks I had been wearing. I was really good at being what I thought everyone wanted me to be, and that had been my MO for my entire life up until, I would say, that mid 20 point. And then I was very unhappy in a current position in a job that I was in. I didn't know what to do because I didn't know what I was really good at. I had only just been doing the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing, right? So that's what really brought me to that head of that crux of, like, I need to figure out who I am, and I need to start asking the real the real questions so
yeah.
that I can start finding that path, because I hated that feeling of being lost. Like, I hated that feeling of, like, I'd look around and it felt like everyone else had it figured out and I didn't. And so that started my spiritual journey, really, which is what it has been. Was that it started as a spiritual journey.
And you talk about that in the book, how it's kind of a myth if you're waiting for the calling, it's so funny because when I read that, my head was bouncing up and down because everybody is like waiting for the calling. And I'm like,
Yeah.
stop waiting, number one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
talk about that, about
Yeah.
listening for the calling and what aligned instead that made you take movement and move that needle to where you are now, which is quite successful, calling in everything you desire. Um,
Yep.
you didn't wait for the calling. What did you hear instead?
So I didn't wait for the calling. I think what happened was I focused inwards, right? And I started asking questions and I started getting to know who I was,
Mhm.
right? At my core. And
Mm.
I started, discovering like what are those limiting beliefs I have. And I really like I was the student of myself, for a good amount of time. And then it was through that process that I started to learn and I started to grow. And my world, my outer world really started to shift and change. Like the level of opportunities that were coming to me were different. Um,
Mm.
my overall joy was different. My confidence was different. And so that's when I started thinking, you know what? Like, what I really want to do is to teach. What I really want to do is to
Mm.
coach. But that was just the kind of the beginning of that. Like the calling was
Yeah.
always within me. I think that everyone, what we call the calling or our purpose, it's always been within. It's never been lost. It's never been something to find outside of yourself. It's only when you stop and create the space to go within and align with it. I think that was the big change. It was no longer chasing something or trying to find something that is external and
Mhm.
instead connect with what is internal,
Yeah.
what is true for me. And it was that truth and acknowledging it that started to shift everything. But the problem is, or the problem was at the time, at this point I had just married Rudy. He also wanted to be a coach, and we knew this from the minute we met. It was a knowing when we met each other.
Yeah.
We met. I know you probably read this in the book, but it was like we met, and 2 months later we were engaged, and 6 months later we were married. I mean, we were on a mission. It was
Yeah.
like there was a knowing between us, and we knew that we were meant to work together. But man, I had a lot of work to do before I'd be ready for that because I just didn't have the confidence. I didn't really see myself that way. The idea of writing a book to me was just like never going to happen because I couldn't imagine having the words to write down that anyone would actually want to read. I mean, that was really where my confidence levels were. And so I had to do a lot of work. I did a lot of work on myself, and then we decided, you know what? Like let's just start where we are because we were both in corporate jobs. At that time, we both wanted to be coaching. We saw the vision, right, of what we wanted our life to be, but we
Right.
both had the handcuffs, right? The golden handcuffs of the
Yeah.
corporate jobs, the paychecks, and we had children, and we were like, how are we going to do this?
Insurance and all
And
the
sure, yeah.
all
And you're
the
like, this
all
isn't
the
logical. Like, how are we going to get from here to there?
yeah.
And one day we were sitting and I was like, you know what? Why don't we just like start hosting coaching meetups? And so at that point, I don't know if you remember Dana, the meetup webs, like that used to be a big thing, like
Oh
these
yeah.
meetups. So I posted it. We were living in Cincinnati at the time. And I was like, I just posted it on the meetup page. And I was like, and I advertised a free coaching event like at our home because I mean, it sounded like a great idea. I don't know if I would do the same thing now, but and then we just were like, okay, let's just see if anyone comes.
Yeah.
And we were nervous because we had never done anything like this before. We'd never like hosted a group coaching session. And the first one, two people came, right? And we were like, okay, and it went well. I mean, we were nervous and it was clunky, but it went well. And then after
Mm.
that, the next time it was like four people, and then the next time it was 15, and then the next time, and they would just start bringing their friends and family, and it grew and grew and grew to the point where at certain points we had like 150 people were part of the meetup, and then sometimes we would have a house full of people. And
Yeah.
we did this for 3 years whilst still working in our corporate jobs, right? So we
Mm.
were living, it was kind of like living the two lives.
Yeah.
And at some point we had to take the risk, right? And merge the two because
Yeah.
what we realize is you'll never become what you want to be when you're not being that and embodying that all the time,
Yeah.
when you're trying to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a,
The bridge in between. I call that the bridge in between. It's like which way are you gonna go?
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
I love that. You to embody that. And it's interesting that 3 years you held space for that. And people are always asking me, how long, how long? Well, that's up to you. How
Yeah.
long?
Yeah.
And I think there's so many circumstances that go in that. And when I was reading your book, the myth, you need to find your purpose. Well, how long are you going to seek your purpose out and believe that story? How long are you going to believe the imposter syndrome? How long are you going to buy into the stories that you created? And I loved this book so much. I mean, literally, I couldn't put it down because it just validated all the things. And writing my own book right now, all the stuff that's coming back up, it's like, I've been boo-hooing like for a month. It's like, "Ah," it's crazy what comes out of this process. But the clarity that you got through this, it just showed me where you were at in this
Yeah.
acceptance. And I loved the big seven. And I'm diving right into the big seven. And if anybody in the book, it's the big seven. You're gonna have to get the book, but we're gonna talk about the big seven because I think this is huge. And I think this is a value for people that really, I think, can identify,
Hmm.
and they don't have to have a solution for all of it. I think that everything is so solution based and slay the day and get it done. And how about we just acknowledge the big seven that they
Let's
exist?
just acknowledge, right?
Yeah. And so I'm gonna just, yeah. So when you started with one, the fear of abandonment, and then second, the fear of failure, and then the fear of success. And then you have on number four, the fear of rejection. And then number five, the fear of loss. Six, the fear of judgment. Seven, the fear of the unknown. Let's talk about those. Which one was your big,
Oh gosh.
the big boogeyman?
The big boogeyman for me, well, I would say there was a tie. It was fear of failure and fear of rejection. Those two,
Oh,
my goodness. Like, and the reason why I felt it was so important to include this chapter, which is really all around it's better it's really looking at fear and starting to understand it and study it and so it becomes less scary because usually it's the fear of fear itself that's the worst part,
yeah.
right? It's and then you avoid it. And so but instead like let's look at it and start to diagnose a little bit of your flavor, if you will, of those core wounds that you have or the core fears that you have. Like we are so much more alike than we are different, all of
Oh,
us,
yeah.
no matter where we come from, our nationality, what we look like, those seven core fears, I mean,
Universal.
universal,
Yeah.
universal. And they set up shop with a lawn chair along your comfort zone, right? Just imagine that. So you got your comfort zone, they set up shop, they've got their cooler. And the minute you start taking steps, towards that purpose, towards that dream and desire, the one that you're heading towards is like, whoa, 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 turn around. You're getting close to the perimeter here. You're getting a little close. This could be
Yeah.
bad for you,
Yeah.
and it'll flare up, right? And it's just, and it will send you running in the opposite direction or stop you right in your tracks. And that has happened to me so many times. I wrote an entire book, Dana, an entire one from start to finish, had it edited. This was many years ago. And but then I got it back from the editor. It was ready to go, ready for me to start like trying to find an
Mm.
agent, doing that kind of thing. And that fear of rejection was like, oh heck no, girl. What do you think you're doing? And that fear of failure was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like this kind of behavior is dangerous. Like you could fail and what are people going to say? And so I promptly put that book into a file on my desktop and has sat there ever since. The book that I just published now was not that book. And I share
Mm.
that story because your dreams and desires are already in danger of not coming to fruition if you're not willing to start to learn how to manage your fear, because you have fear, everyone has fear, and fear is a part, I think it's a part of the human experience,
Right.
but it can be managed,
Right.
and you can learn to manage it to such a degree that the amount of time you allow it to impact you becomes so much shorter. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that you don't have to worry about your dreams being in danger anymore because you know that you have tools, there's things that you can do to move through the fear rather
Right.
than trying to skirt it or avoid it.
So you talk about after, we went through the big seven, a fear management plan. If we could encapsulate and share with the people that are listening that are in fear right now of something. I mean, we're doing this podcast right now, and we know that the LA fires are happening. We know that people are in a lot of fear, a lot of distress. People that aren't even in there are in a lot of fear of the unknown. There's just, I can feel the fear based, but the day-to-day fear. There's realtors out there that the interest rate's going to go up. I mean, I'm hearing fear coming from every profession because we've got a new administration going in. Well, what if the
Yeah.
interest rates go up? I'm losing money. It's like I hear that alert. How can we put in a fear management plan? And what little nuggets can we do to simplify and maybe be of service to them of
Yeah.
the fear, that the big picture fear, and maybe
Yeah.
their small fears of their day to day.
Yeah. Well, I think the first step is probably the same for both, which is it's creating a practice of creating the space to become aware of them. Like I'm a journaler. Like in the mornings, I always leave time. Are you a journaler? Do you journal
Oh
in the
yeah.
mornings?
Well, I do, but I'm a lefty and I write upside down and backwards. So I do a little bit differently. I meditate for 2 hours. I'm up at every morning at 3 a.m. and it's
Yep.
such a beautifully spiritually connected time for me. But I doodle. I write
Yep.
messages and then I read that journaling, and it's very powerful. So I found my own unique way of doing it, which
Yep.
has really served me. So a little bit different, but
Yep.
yeah.
I've found that like being able to write out, like I will take stock of, because you know how it is. Like I'm a meditator. I love to meditate in the morning. And so typically after I meditate, I'm in more of a neutral space anyway,
Mm,
right? So I'm not necessarily responding to an emotion, but it's more easy for me to feel when something is off, or I've got energy around something, like I'm kind of stressing about something, I'm anxious about it, which is a symptom. It's symptomatic of a fear that is being triggered at that time, right? Is the stress and the anxiety. Well, there's fear underneath there, right?
right.
So when you're in the throes of fear, it's hard to look at it and observe it
Yeah.
and poke at it and try to figure out what it is and where it's coming from. So in the mornings when I'm most neutral is when I think is a good time to write it out, like to start to write out like I'm feeling fear of this, or I'm
Right.
afraid of this, and just start, because
Right.
once you get it
Yeah.
out of your head and onto the paper, then you're using a different part of your brain, right? You're not just experiencing it with the amygdala anymore. Now you're experiencing it with your logical thinking mind, and you can actually start to look at it and be like, okay, so am I fearful of something that's happening currently right now in my present, or am I fearful of something that I'm afraid will happen, right? Because you can start to divide that up, because then you know that, okay, well, I'm forecasting out right now, and my brain, if
Mm,
you can start to look at it and be like, so why am I assuming this is going to be bad? Why am I assuming the past is going to repeat itself? Or why am I going? So I think being able to look at it, write it out, and investigate and be like, well, is it even true? Like, do I know for 100% fact that I need to be fearful of this?
mm,
And if not, then what steps can I take to start to disprove this fear? Because the thing is, and I think people wait, I think there's an illusion that the fear will go away. And when the fear goes away, I'll take action.
mm.
Oh, that's not been
Yeah,
my
yeah.
experience. I don't know
Yeah,
about
let's
you,
talk
but
about that. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. When the fear goes away, I'll take action. When there's more money in my bank account, I'll build. When and
yeah,
I'll shift from my corporate job until, I always say, well, how much would be enough? How
yeah.
much?
How much? What would that take? Because I
Yeah, what would
guarantee
it
you
take?
think it'll be at a certain amount, and then you'll
Yeah,
get there, and then
yeah,
your brain will tell you,
yeah.
no, 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 still not. It's not. You're not ready yet. There could be
Mm,
another bill that comes. The roof. You need a new roof. You can't quit your job yet. So I
yeah.
think that the key is to be able to to look at it, start to take the emotion out of it, but then to create a plan of like, what step can I take, even though this might be scary, even though I might feel fear right now and thinking about it. I
Right.
know that if I can take action, it's going to start to diminish the fear, because I think that's the antidote. It's when you can get into action and you start focusing on the action you're taking and
Yeah.
taking your focus away from the fear of the outcome,
Right.
that's when the fear starts to lose hold of you.
Yeah.
But even writing this book, and I'm sure you're experiencing it now at every new level, at every step of the way, there was a new fear,
Oh yeah.
a new fear that was saying, maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe this is too much. Maybe people are going to judge you. Maybe this, and I had to commit to my why. I had to really anchor into, this is part of my mission. I know that this is a part of what I'm here to do. And because of that, it's going to feel scary, but I get to take action anyway. And you have to move through it. You've got to take
Yeah.
action despite the fear. And I found with a fear management plan, it's really good to find someone to support you.
Ah.
Rudy was my, like, when I would get in my head and I would sit down, he'd be like, what's going on? Just tell me what's in that head of yours. And I would
Yeah.
say it out loud, and just saying it out loud to him, it would feel a little silly. And he'd
Yeah.
be like, and then he could level with, he could really give me
You'd be
sound
spinning out.
advice.
You'd be
Yeah.
spinning out.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
truly, that's why I think
Yeah.
listen, I'm a big believer in coaching. I'm a big believer in finding
Yeah.
support, because you need that person who is that outside party who has your best interest at heart, who can tell you when you're being paralyzed by fear and
Yeah.
tell you it's going to be okay. Let me help. Let's take a few steps forward. Like, let me keep you moving. Don't
Yeah.
be, paralyzed by this.
Yeah. Either rational or irrational. I like that. I like that because I think fear is the biggest killer of dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And when you said the key and the catalyst is action, I'm like, yes, universally, like the whole universe just lit up for me. Like, whatever it is, make a move because your
Yeah.
circumstances will change after that. And I heard that again and again in your book. And I think that embodying your purpose, but I say all this and I'm leaning into the book and being an intuitive, you know what it just did? It just bounced me back to the front of your computer. I want to know about that book. I want to know why, Anniston, where's that book?
It's funny. My kids asked me about that the other day. They're like, so are you going to publish that book now?
Out of
And
the
I was
mouths of
like,
babes, wisdom, honesty, directness, no
you want to
filters.
know what's funny? Um, that book is about, I've always loved, I've always been a fan of like Harry Potter and magic and
Mm,
superpowers, and like I love reading stories about that kind of thing. and
yeah.
and I got an idea. Again, it was another meditation. I also received the universe is hiring a download during a meditation, but I had been meditating, and this was a long time ago, and I had received this outline, and it was a book that was about each chapter focusing on a superpower we all have, right? That oftentimes is untapped, that people are even unaware of, like telepathy, or,
Yeah.
and these are all things I like to study, that just
Yeah.
really interest me, and obviously manifestation and the ability to tap into each other's energies. And I just think we are so powerful. We have we have our own superpower. We are our own superhero. And that's why we admire, I think, though, and
Yeah.
we love those movies. And it's an age old tale, because
Mhm.
somewhere within us, we know we all have these abilities to
Right.
live larger than life. So that's the book.
Oh yeah. I think the book needs to be out there, number one, because I'm a big believer, like the Greeks believe that everyone has a genius in them. I believe a
Yes.
superpower is anchored into that. And
Yep.
if you think about how unique we all are with our own thumbprint, and there's not anyone that has this thumbprint or DNA, it's all specifically us, billions of people.
Yeah.
But it's just us that have that. I mean, that definition right there, I love that because I mean, think of how many people don't know and aren't. You could awaken a lot of superpower.
I know,
I
right?
think that,
I should really publish the book.
and it should be awaken your superpower because yeah, I mean, I'm feeling that one, and I mean, my energy just went bing. It wouldn't even let me move forward until I'm like, What's going
What
on?"
is this book?
Yeah, this book. I mean, I don't know. Perhaps This one was the launching pad to flying out there. Hey, I wonder, and I do believe I read that when she wrote Harry Potter, she thought, who's going to read this? It's just mumbo jumbo, and no one's going, it's not going to resonate with anyone. It's going to, she didn't believe it would go anywhere. This
Yeah.
crazy, crazy story. And look at that crazy story where it went. And think about the world today. The universe is hiring. You know what the universe needs right now is to hire a lot of superpowers. It needs
A
a lot
lot of
of it
superpowers.
needs a lot of superhumans that show up of service and are available. So I don't know. There's something that resonates deeply. And when I looked at chapter 12 that said surrender and let go, maybe surrender whatever you've got attached to that old story and like launch that. And I wonder, and I'm going to go here, what superpower do you have and what superhero would you be?
Ooh. Well, it's funny, the images that came to my mind, not so much a superhero, but did you ever did you ever watch the Care Bears?
Yeah,
I'm totally
yeah.
aging myself right now.
Well, no, I have daughters in their late 30s, but I have a 20, think, well, Care Bears might have been them. Nope, Care Bears was my 28-year-old era.
Yeah.
I have a 28-year-old daughter too. So yeah, that was that era. Yeah, she loved Care Bears, had them all.
Had them all. Well, so my superpower that I have really tapped into or I'm aware of, and now I get to experience a lot more of that I'm even, I'm more fully embodying and expressing in my purpose is my ability to open people's hearts. Like
Oh,
I have an like I have an ability with teams and with big groups of people to really not only unify, but
yeah.
then create a safe space that people they just open. It's like they become in the most beautiful way. And I think it wasn't until I tapped into my own authenticity, like full authenticity, and became so aligned with who I am that superpower came online. And I started to see the difference when I would up in front of groups and do trainings and in workshops, how, the difference in how people are responding and how people are opening and then the feedback you get after. And I realized I was like, this is one of my gifts. And so there you go. That's my superpower.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. You have the ability to connect and create safety almost instantly and call in the people that may need that.
Hmm.
We don't, I'm not going to say we don't live in a safe world, but we have to use our power of discernment and we have to use that internal compass and guide of our own intuitiveness, which anchors
Yeah.
into our authenticity to be able to recognize and vibrate at that level and connect. I mean, I saw you immediately. I'm like, love her, love her. I mean, yeah, loved Rudy too. Rudy, we love you too. And he's a superhero. But yeah, it was like, this is your time,
Yeah.
and the world needs you. The universe is hiring. I think it called you up and said it's not only your time, but it's needed. I believe that it's needed.
Yeah, and I think that it was an idea, it was an idea that came, and I believe ideas have their own energy, their own path, their own destiny. And if I wouldn't have grabbed a hold of it, I have to believe somebody else would have. I think that I believe a creator would have given this idea to somebody else, but it was
Yeah.
given to me and it was given for a reason. And thankfully it was given in a time that I was in a place to be able to receive it and also take action on it. And I think that was the missing link with
Ah,
the first
re-
book, right? Was I
receive it
took
and take
action
action.
in my comfort zone. It was comfortable for me to sit in my
Mm,
house and write on my laptop. It was comfortable for me, but the minute that the action required me to step outside of that comfort zone, like risking fear of failure or other people reading my work, and that it was I wasn't there yet. I hadn't yet learned how to manage that and how to
right.
overcome that. But with the universe's hiring, it's just been such an expansive energy from the beginning. And what I mean by that is I think some ideas, when they are really aligned with what you're meant to do, and then you start taking action, it has an expansive quality about it, right? It will start to grow and attract in resources and collaborators but in miraculous synchronistic ways. And that does not mean not taking action. Okay. That
Right.
means
Yeah.
like taking action, but
Yeah.
then it's like I was surprised every step of the way that the thing I needed came even before I knew I needed it, or the help or the advice or the publisher, or and so it has
Mhm.
been such a reminder and a validation to me that as long as I stay true to myself and I kind of feel my way forward and I continue to take action on my inspirations, that myself and my purpose and my career and my abundance and all the things are just going to continue to expand as they should and as they need to.
Right. So I was thinking about the end of your book where you talk about alignment, and I think you just said it. How I stay aligned is I stay true to who
Yeah.
I am. I don't push, but I do attract and I hold space for that. You
Yeah.
know, I love universal laws, and my book has a lot of universal laws in it and activating it. And you just got on a playing field of I'm here, I'm grounded into this, I'm attracting, but you're right. The action must we must continue to we can't just sit there and lay down and nap and say, "Oh, the universe is just going to show up for me."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
still going to put in the reps. I'm still going to build that muscle. I'm still going to put in the reps. So, what does it look like in your life now? Books out, you got another superhero book is high. Yeah,
I mean, well,
the
according to
universe is
Dana,
hiring
I'm gonna
superheroes.
publish this right away. Gosh, so many things. So, well, we've got, some exciting events coming up. I'm going to be seeing you hopefully at Align in a
Oh, I
couple of
am. Oh, that's in
weeks.
a few weeks. Yeah, a couple
Yeah,
weeks. Yeah,
it's like 2 weeks, week and a half. I mean, it'll be here before we know it.
I know.
Um,
Can't wait.
and and then, Rudy and I, we always sit down, I mean, and really think about like, what is it we want to create this year? And for us, a lot of times it's like we set these goals of like, how many people do we want to impact? Because that just
Mm,
feels so rich. Like it feels to us like we have energy for
yeah.
days for that,
Uh-huh.
and then
Aligned. Yeah.
what's our strategy to get there, right? What's our strategy to reach the people? And so we are going to be planning an event for later this fall, which is our first ever like in-person live event, which we're really excited about. And we're also going to be, we've both of us individually and together have spent most of our coaching has been within organizations and businesses, because that was our background, and we were always in corporate. And so we were able to really bring a lot of these spiritual ideas and philosophies into businesses
Mhm.
and help support their teams and working with individuals as well as with entire organizations. And so we Rudy has been running these groups, like these leadership groups within organizations that are incredibly impactful, and they really help support everyone to grow, like not only their personal lives but professionally and in every area. Because what we've learned is wherever you go, there you are. If you're in a boardroom, there you are. If you're in the grocery store, there you are. And so if you're working in a business, like you bring all your stuff with you. You bring all the drama, all the baggage, all the limiting beliefs, all the fears. And so we had developed a program, and now we're excited to launch it for our other coaching clients that are outside of organizations. So we've got a lot going on, Dana. It's going
Yeah.
to be a busy year, but
Yeah.
a rich one in terms of, I feel like, just overall really being able to support people, because I feel, and I know you feel this too, that this really is going to be a year of transformation. And I think it's going to be a year where a lot of people are going to be really wrestling with, who am I and what no longer serves me? And I think we're all really being drawn into ourselves and to be more of our authentic selves. But
Yeah.
there's oftentimes layers, right? There's this like peeling back an onion, and
Yeah.
we want to be there to support people for that, because it is so worth the work. The work is so worth it. On the other side of it is so much freedom and
Yeah.
so much joy and just an overall better quality of life.
Love that. Wrestling with the release, if you had to share with the audience, well, number one, love that you're holding space outside of the corporate for this transformational experience. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll give everybody the links and all the deets on that and how to find that. But wrestling with release, what could we share with people right now? It's the beginning of the year and they're wrestling with maybe they don't have a plan, they don't have a purpose. Everyone's ahead of them. They're behind. They're doing the active comparison. They're
Yeah.
shut down. Maybe they think they're depressed. Maybe they're going back down the rabbit hole of, I can't compete in this world. She's bigger, brighter, more. I can't do it. What can you encapsulate? I know that's a lot to share
No,
with them
I,
because your book kind of shares it, but I'm asking you to kind of like tie it up in a bow. Like, what can you share with them that they can take away and maybe they write over and over again, like something, a nugget that I know you have and you're so wise. You have so much wisdom. And this comes from people doing the work.
it comes from doing the work. Yeah. I mean, you do the work, you get the reward, you know? And I think what I would share with those people that are really feeling it right now, you know, is that the way through this is by number one, it's not by trying to fix and control everything outside of you. That is a lost cause, in my opinion, because I do believe that everything that is outside of you is only a reflection of your own energy and and what is going on within you. And
Mhm.
so if you really want to make change, if you really are to that place where you're like, I'm if first of all, if you're probably listening to this podcast episode, you're probably ready, right? If you're starting to ask questions, it means you're ready. It means you're ready. There's always those people walking around. Sometimes I'm like, and they just seem blissfully unaware that they're so unhappy. Have you met those people where they're just like, they're just kind of like, they're just
Yes.
so in it. They're in this world and they're in their story
Yeah.
that they don't even stop to question, like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Why am I in this job I hate so much for so long? Why am I in this relationship still? They don't even ask the questions because they're not even thinking to ask the questions, which means they're not ready. But if you're asking questions, it means
Mm.
you're ready. It means you're actually ready to receive an answer. And when you start asking better questions, you get better answers and then you can take better action. For me, what has been one of the most pivotal things that I have done, I think, to radically shift my life is by shifting out of, and I talk about this in the first chapter, but shifting out of the victim mindset.
Yeah, I loved that. I loved that shift and that pivot of taking accountability, and it's so powerful. I think that that is such an aha moment when I was
Yeah.
reading that, and I had
Yeah.
to think, and I kind of put myself through the process as I was reading it, and I thought that was when I started to take accountability that I was attracting and I was responsible
Yeah.
and I had the power to change it. And that was the beginning. And
Yeah.
it's like the universe started moving differently for me. And I
Yeah.
love that you started with that. Such a
It's
powerful story.
powerful. And I think that we carry the weight of our past. You might not see it. You might like that little grudge you have on your high school boyfriend for cheating on you, you think is
Yeah.
completely harmless. That little grudge still that you carry, and you know you have it because every time you think about him and you kind of still feel this little bit of energy, you feel, ugh, like
Yeah.
that means it is not resolved. It
That
means
little bit of energy. Do
that
y'all hear
little
that?
bit of
That
energy
little
that
bit like, ugh.
you think is
Yeah.
totally harmless. Oh, no, no. That's like throwing an anchor. And you
Yeah.
throw out enough anchors of
Anchors.
these resentments, this bitterness, this person took from me. I was a victim here and this and you start to try to move forward. So you get to a point where you're like, okay, now I want to move forward in my life and I want to do big things and I want the money and I want the title and you know, and you start trying to move forward into a new state of being and you don't know why you can't. You don't know
Mhm.
why it's like you keep getting tugged back and it's because of either a lack of willingness or just a lack of know-how that you've got to be able to, in my opinion, find the good, find the purpose, find the something, some sort of purpose in all of your past experiences. Doesn't mean you had to choose them, doesn't mean you did choose them, doesn't mean you have to like them, but
Mhm.
something that says there is an intelligence, there is a meaning behind my life, every moment of my life. And
Mhm.
I am not a victim here, but I am a student. And if I
Yeah.
refuse to find the good, then I'm not being a good student, right? I'm not learning from it. I'm not growing from it. And it will set you free. If you start to do this work, you
Mhm.
will find this weight lifted off of you. You will find that when you come back to do that activity, like that, to achieve that goal you couldn't achieve before, like the book I couldn't write, I was able to move right past that comfort zone because I wasn't being held back by the old story that I was a victim and I was weak and people took advantage of me and it wasn't safe to be seen. I had that story. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I went back and healed that story that I was able to move forward.
You know, it's so interesting. I think of the personal responsibility and accountability, but what about the people that are listening to this and feeling the shame of, yes, I've forgiven, I've gone back and loved the versions of myself, but the world still sees me and wants to pigeonhole me where they found me. And how do they fight those energies, or do they fight them at all? I mean, what do you feel about that? Because this is a real deal breaker for some people. They keep trying to show up in their power, and other people see them a different way, and they keep stepping in and out of their story.
Yeah. So in my experience, it has been because I can give you an example. Like I used to have a story that people thought I was weak, just like wasn't very powerful, that I wasn't meant to be a strong leader because I was too weak or I wasn't strong enough and I wasn't, like that. I had that story in my head. And because I had the story,
Mm.
I I would look for, because if that becomes your belief, right?
You
If you're
would look
holding the
for it. Yeah.
story, that you're
Yeah.
looking for it, and what you seek, you will find.
Yeah. By
I
the way, I
also
never
think,
saw that. What I saw was quiet authority, which meant you have a gentleness and a safety about you that
right,
pulls in this quiet authority. It's not strong and loud, but it's soft,
right,
powerful,
right.
and can be even more powerful.
Well, I appreciate that. And I absolutely see that now. But I kept feeling like every situation, I would move from different positions or jobs or companies or whatever. And I felt like I would always find these
Mm.
situations where people were validating back my own belief, right, about myself. And I was like, I just want them to, I've grown so much though. I've learned so much, I'm an authority in my field. Like they should see me as
Yeah.
powerful. But then it wasn't until someone said, "But do you see you as powerful?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I think I do, but
Yeah.
it wasn't until I started to believe and see myself that way that people started to respond." And then
Yeah.
it was like it shifted so quickly for me once I addressed that part of myself, right? That once I addressed and I said, actually, I am powerful. Look at all these other places I have been powerful. And I really started to work through that limiting belief. Then
Mm.
I started to stack evidence of where I was powerful.
Yeah.
And then the external world started to reflect that back. But it started with me.
Yeah. So
It
that
didn't.
version that we still hold is still calling in that little niggle. And when
Yes.
we heal and I love the question that you just said. Do I feel I am that powerful?
Yeah.
And if you are negotiating with that, then
Yeah.
perhaps you're still calling that in. I think that is enormously powerful for when people find themselves still saying, I've done all the work. What's going on?
The power is always within you to make that change. Or, yeah, my family just doesn't see me. They don't see me like this. Or, you know,
Yeah.
you're waiting for
Yeah.
that validation, and there's information there for you too. Like, well,
Yeah.
why do you need your family to see you that way for you to
Yeah.
feel good about it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's always like there's always feedback happening, and if you start looking at your external world as a mirror and reflecting back, but also as feedback for you of what is going inside that you can't see.
Yeah.
You can't see where the stuck energy is maybe,
Yeah.
but you'll see it reflected back and in someone else's behavior. And then, so I had started a practice of almost like when I was going through periods where I was being triggered a lot by different people or in challenging situations where in the
Right.
mornings I would go through that process of like, okay, neutrally, what is the situation? Why am I upset about it? Like what do I wish that those people would change? And then it was
Mm,
like every single time I would write down what is the behavior that
mm,
really is triggering me?
mhm,
And then I would be like, okay, and where do I do this behavior?
mm.
Most of the
So
time,
once again, the accountability
it's the
of I'm
accountability and
calling it in because I've got a vision of me in here that still
that is not
identifies
okay
with
with
it.
this. Yeah, or
That's
I
not okay
do
with this.
this, but I'm not in alignment or I'm not in integrity with that action and that's why I'm responding this way. But I also asked the question, and where else in my past have I been in a similar situation? And 9 times out of 10 there is a situation. I actually once uncovered that there was something that happened with this girl. Her name, I won't say her name on here, but so I started doing this exercise and she had really like it really upset me. And when I did the exercise of
Mm,
where else in my life has this happened, I actually realized that there were two other situations with girls with the same name, different girl, similar situation. I mean, where I felt this, the behavior was there. I responded in the same way. And I believe that, and I put his quote, and I love Dr. Wayne Dyer. He was one of my great spiritual mentors. And he said, what you don't resolve in your past will continue to show up in your present. That is true. In my life experience, like you cannot escape it. So if you start really looking and studying what is happening in your life, you can resolve it and then it goes away. I'm telling you, it just dissolves. Once you resolve the energy in a situation, the entire situation, you don't even need the other person to resolve it because you've resolved your side.
right.
And you don't need to call them and say, well, you should really forgive me or I should forgive you. It's you doing the work within yourself
Yeah.
to transform that energy will transform it for everyone
And
involved.
if you still need that, and if they're still out there talking about that,
Yep.
it's not about you. This I just
No.
posted about the 4 agreements. This brings up Maya Angelou's quote, it's one of my favorite quotes, and it's that she doesn't. She says, "Never trust. I don't trust anyone that doesn't love themselves, because if
Oh,
you
that's
cannot
beautiful.
drop in and love who you are and this radical acceptance, this big, messy, imperfect self." She says, I just don't trust it. If you don't love yourself, I'm not going to trust you. And I feel that. I feel the love and the acceptance and the growth. And I look for that. And that quote I lead with a lot. It's if someone doesn't try, I work with, and we work with a lot of people that show up and they don't trust themselves, but they
Yeah.
trust us to
Yeah.
teach them and how to hold space so they can evolve and understand what it takes and what story they may have bought into that might not even be theirs.
Yeah.
It's powerful
So
work.
true.
Yeah, you are a powerhouse. You're a power. Okay, last question. I know I've kept
Okay.
you a long time. Love the universe is hiring. I love the universe is hiring superheroes. I cannot wait. I know the next book is coming. It's like I feel it. It's like my little fingers, being an intuitive, whenever something vibrates high, my fingers go a little numb. Like I
That's
go
so
like
interesting.
I know.
I love that.
It's so weird. I usually don't share that. It's like whenever my clients see me going like this, they say, "What's going on?" Nothing, because my hands are usually down here, but it's like I feel it. It's like it's exciting. I mean, I want to celebrate this book, but I can feel what's to come too. And wow, powerful, powerful. So, Anniston Blair Riekstins, what feels like love in your life right now?
Mm. What feels like love in my life? Oh my gosh, so many things. But I feel right now what is really present for me is just this unbelievable gratitude, with the book coming out this week. It came out the day before my birthday, which I feel like was
Happy
just
birthday.
the best birthday present on the planet. And
Was that planned?
no, no, it was not. The publisher gave me the date, and it also happens to be my grandmother's birthday who has passed. We were always birthday buddies, we would call ourselves. And because we would
No coincidence
oftentimes,
there.
I know. And I was like, there was her little wink from heaven, I think,
Yeah.
saying, I've got you. I've got you.
Yeah.
And I am just in complete, like, just such gratitude. I've been in tears most of the week, I think, because of just being able to be a part and witness the
Yeah.
unfolding. And then to be on the other side of it and realize that, it was never really about me. Like, it's easy to make these things about you. Like, this is my goal, this is my
Yeah.
thing, and I'm gonna, and I was looking back at who I got to become in the process of writing this book, and how it challenged me in ways I never thought I would be challenged, and how it really, it was the carrot that kept me going and kept me growing, right? And so I am standing on the other side of this, a completely different person, I feel like, than when I started. Just a more evolved, a more loving, um, and just more aware, I think, individual. But now to be able to see it impact other people and realize again, like, I've said, what if I just said no? What if I was like, no, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do this, and
I'm too frightened.
I'm
I don't
too
want to
cold,
take
I'm
no
too
approach. Yeah.
scared,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, that,
Yeah.
like, this was my sacred divine assignment.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I would want to say to anyone listening is, what sacred divine assignment have you been given?
Mm.
And what would it take for you to make it happen? Because let me tell you, on the other side of it is, it is just, it's priceless. That feeling, it's more than achievement. It's just a knowingness that I am doing what I came here to do, and a trust that when
Yeah.
I get another sacred divine assignment, I know that I will handle it with the care that it deserves, because the world needs what you have to give.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I think about energetic alignment and vibration, and I what I write down everywhere, that is my quote on all of my marketing, is and especially this year, I can't stop doodling it, is everybody has a soul mission. We're
Yeah.
here. Our soul has a mission. And I love the way you eloquently put that, and encompassed it in a perfect package of, hey, what is it going to take to
Yeah.
align with that? And as you said in the beginning, the action and the movement and the mistakes and the alignment and the accountability and the healing and the growth, all of it. The universe is hiring. Wow. You take my breath away. I adore you. I love you. Thank you for being here. I can't
Thank you,
wait to hear the
Dana.
feedback on this book. I know it's going to just like go all the way. And I love the cover of it. I love everything about it. We had this is our second take. Our second take. We were going to take, and what's so crazy? When I got the book, I had an outfit when we were originally planned on scheduling. My outfit actually matched this to such a degree. When I was on, I'm looking at the book and I'm looking at my clothes and saying, I look like I'm like aligned and dressed like the book. And it's like, I should go change. I didn't even mean to do it.
I
But
love you.
yeah, I love you too. I shouldn't have shared that. I probably shouldn't have shared that. I'm an oversharer. It's like there's always a vulnerability hangover. I think
I
I'm gonna
love
feel
it.
that with the book too. I think I'm gonna like go into the wilderness for a week and just
Guaranteed.
like disconnect.
Guaranteed.
It's like I don't want to hear any feedback. It's just like it's enough. I have enough voices going on already.
Well, I
Enough
can't
stories.
wait to read your book. Lord, I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
I don't
So good.
know. Look at me. I don't know. Look at all that. I don't know. I don't know. It's actually, I'm looking at it right now and I've passed the deadline and I'm like, maybe I'll just pause it. Maybe, it was 7 years, pause, pause, pause. And then I'm like, I think there's a better version that could be. And now that I've written this, there's a better version, an up level. I'm just going to have to rewrite. And I'm like, nope,
Nope.
nope, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this perfection paralysis stuff. But it's
Yep.
listening to you today. I'm on a divine mission.
Yes, you are, sister.
I'm on a divine mission. And even if it's not exactly, it's never going to be exactly the way I'm going to need it to be. And everyone needs to hear that. And I hope they heard that from you is that it's never going to feel exactly like we need
Mm-mm.
it to feel in order to do the thing. And that means
Yeah.
anything. So do it anyway. I always said
Yep.
Nike said it best, just do it, just do it, just do it. I'm going to walk the Camino, and I know that I'm sitting here in front of Zoom a lot, and I know that I've got to start walking more. I mean, I walk enough, but I'm going to do just 10 to 15 miles a day. And I'm like, every day, push it another couple miles, another couple miles, another couple miles. I've just got to do it if I want to hit this goal. If I don't, it could be, I probably, I can just see them leaving me on the trail. Bye bye. Bye bye. Enjoy that stump you're sitting on. Sorry you didn't train better.
Oh my gosh.
Just do it every day. It's the just do it, because the mission and the goal to do it. Yeah, you have been so insightful. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you for being here. And we're going to have all Anniston's links, everything you need to know about her will be, we're going to post. We're going to and connect with her because she is the real deal. The real deal. I love when I get to connect with such deep authenticity, and it's like I'm like a homing pigeon for it. And it's like I'm just thrilled that you're here. I love you.
Oh,
All
thank
right,
you so much,
everyone,
Dana.
thank you for joining us today, and I can't wait to connect with you again on the another show of heart-centered, authentic connections, entrepreneurship, humanness. It's all we're all connected.